Welcome back to TYT Sports and RotoWire. And by we, I mean Andre and I, just finished up our Eastern Conference and Western Conference previews. We posted them over the weekend. Make sure to check them out. We're going to move on to the Comeback Player of the Year, a award that the NBA does not give out. We do. Turns out they give out the Most Improved Player of the Year. But we're going to have fun, probably give out more useless awards that we think are important for debates purposes. But we're going to bring in Andre in just a second. I made a list. Nobody else made this list. It is not the most creative of lists. But out of David Lee, Lance Stephenson, Rajon Rondo, and Deron Williams, who will be the Comeback Player of the Year out of those four?
Of that list, I picked David Lee just because he wasn't so much a train wreck in his own right. Mm-hmm. He was just injured at the wrong time, and that let them figure out what they had in another player. So, that's what got him out of Golden State. But now he's in Boston, and I don't really see, a lot of competition that's going to, put him out like Draymond Green did. So I'll pick David Lee out of that group.
Yeah, I like the David Lee pick. He's going to flourish in Boston. I mean, like we were talking about in the previews, especially the Eastern, about Brad Stevens and the pieces that are necessary. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I don't think it's a ballsy statement, but I like Lance Stephenson on this list. I think it's impossible to shoot worse than Lance Stephenson shot last year. It would be impressive if Lance Stephenson shot 1.168 from three this year. Andre, I need to ask you, if you took 20 threes in an NBA game against average-level defenders, could you hit 2? Could you hit 3 or 4? If you hit 4, you'd be shooting better than Lance, and you'd be on the Clippers.
Well, okay. So first of all, realistically speaking, if anybody that's not in the NBA stepped on the court and shot against average NBA defense, they're not making any.
100% right. Yeah, 100%.
They're blocking
not even a miracle like heave.
Yeah. But as for Lance Stephenson, one of the hilarious things you were talking about, how he struggled with his shot last year, but it's got to get better. And then I look at the update on RotoWire, and Stephenson has struggled with his shot for the Clippers' first 2 preseason games, going 2 for 14 from the field in games against the Raptors and Nuggets.
So that's technically, oh my God, Lance Stephenson. So here's the thing, right? With Lance, I feel like the NBA is so much about coaching, right? And we see the basketball minds at work. We never count out Greg Popovich for obvious reasons. Steve Kerr comes in, takes a good Warriors team, makes them great and also champions, even though it was Mark Jackson's team. Everyone knows this. But Lance Stephenson didn't really make sense in Charlotte. He was a system player under Frank Vogel, right? And he flourished in that system. Defensively, he blew in LeBron James' ear. He actually was able to shoot the ball at a respectable rate. And now he's got Doc Rivers, who, again, might not be the best X's and O's coach in the NBA, but the guy can handle egos. We know Lance kind of has one. He might be insane. That's okay. So I just feel like, give him the comeback. My Comeback Player of the Year would go to him if he hits 20% of his threes.
Right.
What an improvement. Let's touch on the other 2 guys on this list just for fun, though. The Rajon Rondo experiment, which should be made into a 30 for 30 documentary with George Karl. Ongoing. They should be shooting this every game, especially at home in Sacramento. What are you looking forward to in Rajon Rondo this year? You think it's going to work out in Sacramento?
It sure doesn't look like it. The thing with Rondo, there a couple of things.
We have a lot of faith in him. It sure don't look like it, man.
It doesn't look like it. The way it would work out is if Rondo was such a dominant NBA player that they could work through their issues as the team was winning, and then at the end they could look back and say, hey, kind of like Larry Brown and Iverson. He brought it out of me and go that route. The problem is, Rondo, you mentioned Stephenson being a bit of a system player. Mm-hmm. Rondo in Boston, I think, gave the impression that he was better than he was because the system was set up for him to have the ball all of the time, mm-hmm. while surrounded by excellent finishers that were great on defense. And he's, I don't believe, as good as maybe he was perceived to be. And so when you take that and then mix the personality conflicts as well, it seems like it's a challenge to see it ending in a happy way.
Yeah, I absolutely love the relation back to the Celtic system. And you mentioned that he's got great finishers around him in Boston, guys like Ray Allen and Paul Pierce only specifically to finish for him in that system. Of course, I'm leaving out Kevin Garnett as a joke for you. But in the Rajon Rondo, to me, what's going to be most interesting is if they talk at all during games. Because my feeling is it might be like a silent count in the NFL. Like, that's an entire team where Cousins finally turns the corner of, okay, he's matured. He's proved to all the haters out there that he can be a respectable human being on the court and not lose his damn mind. But by the way, and the most important thing, DeMarcus Cousins was born to play in the 90s. He would have like, before social media, he would have been Dennis Rodman's biggest enemy. It would have been the greatest headlines we would have seen, the fights that would have occurred. God, he would have been a great Knick in 1999. And then lastly, I want to move on to, as we wrap this one up, though, there's two others. And I'm going to mention one because we have to, and that technically is Kobe Bryant, Paul George, and Kevin Durant. But before that, real quick, Deron Williams over on the Mavericks. We don't know if that team's going to implode. Do you think that team under Deron Williams as a true point guard succeeds? Or more so, it's going to actually implode and they'll be trading for draft picks midseason?
So I think Deron Williams could have a bounce back this year. I really do. I picked David Lee, but I could have picked Deron Williams. The question is he healthy enough to stay on the court? And I know that's been partially the question in Brooklyn, but it seemed like he really didn't like being in Brooklyn. I mean, I don't know the man personally, but just everything I ever read when he was there seemed like, you know, like his joy went out of him when he left Utah. And I think he likes being a Maverick. And because of that, I could see it being a positive situation. I don't know if it's an imploding situation. Like the Kings could implode. Like their personalities just, you know, could just go crazy. The Mavs, I just don't know if they're that good. And so I could see them trading for picks. I mean, they tried to blow it up this offseason by bringing in DeAndre Jordan. Or I guess they were going to build around Jordan because they felt like he was a frontline talent. But now they don't have that. So I think they're still in the market for trying to get better.
Yeah, you know, it's one of these two teams is going to be a complete disaster 30 games into the season, and we don't know. If both are, even better. How much fun would that be? But, yeah, I agree. He didn't seem happy in Brooklyn. He didn't seem to be getting along with the New York media. And, of course, we always throw that arbitrary figure towards any athlete. Like, can they play in New York? Can they play in LA? Can they survive in the Chicago market? And Deron Williams definitely seemed to be the guy who was fazed by it, and that's a great example to use going forward for players that do have to play in the big markets. We need to play in the big markets. All right, before we close out here, there's the Kobe Bryants, Paul Georges, and Kevin Durants of the world, which is a little unfair to call them a comeback player of the year because, I mean, well, Kobe, he only's got like 5 titles and a bunch of MVP, and you know he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And Paul George is coming off one of the most horrific injuries we've ever seen. If it wasn't for Kevin Ware, so he's always going to be second place to that. And then Kevin Durant, who might just score 35 points a game, and that's actually a serious thing that could happen on the Thunder and be a free agent. So separating those top 4 players from who could get comeback player of the year to guys like Kobe, Paul George, Kevin Durant, out of these 3, what are you focusing on the most?
Okay, out of those 3, I think they have to be separated into 2 categories, and there needs to be a 4th, and you'll never guess who it is. Kevin Garnett. So Paul George and Kevin Durant are one caliber right now. Like they're the ones that could be on the MVP list right now. Kobe Bryant and Kevin Garnett are both old guys at this point. They're former MVPs. So out of that grouping, the Durant and George, yeah, they're hitting their stride. They don't really have a ceiling as to what they could be this year. But Kobe's never going to be what he was because he's older and he's injured. The hope for him is that he gets through the season without getting hurt again. Look, his days of scoring 30 or 40 points are over. Just like with KG, he's not going to carry a team like he once did. But if he can maybe play Tim Duncan minutes, I mean, they're only a month apart age-wise. If he could play Tim Duncan minutes, it could be big for the Timberwolves. But there's only room on my list for one Kevin. So I'm going to give you a hard time about Kevin Garnett, even though he's a player I do love and admire. I agree with you on those points. Garnett, Duncan have the same mileage.
on their legs, which is an absurd amount of mileage in general. So we'll see what happens and it plays out. Those are great categories to be splitting them into. Again, as a Knicks fan, I should hate Paul George and everything he's going to do to my team for the next 10 years as long as he's a lifelong Pacer. And I will always hate the Pacers for what Reggie Miller did to me. Again, Pacers fans, I'm going to look at every damn camera. No, I don't hate your team. I'm a fan. I have my anger towards you guys. But I'm not going to pick on your team. I like Paul George. I'm saying it out loud. I like Frank Vogel. You got to do these things sometimes, Andre, because these audience members will jump at us.
They're fans just like you are.
I'm covering my bases here. That's all we're doing on TYT Sports. But there you have it, Comeback Player of the Year, an award that we give out, according to the NBA. They do the Most Improved Player. We're going to give out a lot of awards this year between me and Andre, and we're looking forward to having more heated debates and topics as we bring you more NBA content for this season. Follow Andre on Twitter at ProfessorDRZ and myself at JasonRubin91. Make sure to check out the Eastern and Western Conference previews that we did. Hold us to our predictions, but most importantly, comment below. We like interacting with you guys in the comment section. We aren't afraid of any of you, so bring us your comments, bring us your debates and questions. Leave us the other awards you'd like to see me and Andre and I give out this season. Thanks for watching as always, and we'll see you next time.